And then the other layer to that, which I struggle with sometimes, is like, do I even know what the fuck I like doing?
Dude,
I'm not
literally the fucking journey of a creator, and especially
Yeah.
more so the ones that, like, you know, we had the conversations at the Texas event about when you're even more into creating. You know, when you get more into the tech side of things, you get more into the, wow, I could do this with the camera. Well, I was inspired by X, Y, and Z. Yeah, that makes it tougher because, like, it's, you know, there's always a window of everybody's like fantasy of like, God, I would just love to take over storytelling and be the next Casey Neistat because that's inspiring. I'd love to be the next like Peter McKinnon because he's just so good at, you know, creating other creators. And that's an inspirational thing. And it's usually because they've inspired us. So we feel the need and want to do it ourselves. But yeah, dude, you're so right. And yeah, that's like lately that's been my whole thing is I feel like as a creator, you know, obviously I'm not to the level of you and where you are to where it appears that you're more fine-tuned, but that's the thing with being a creator. You just never know what's going on with you and where you actually want to start bringing your brand and what you actually want to start doing. But yeah, you know, recently I've had a sit down with a couple bigger creators too, and just talking with a lot of people. And it's like, it's just so clearly evident what the forte is, the skits, the tech, that conversation. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think as creators, sometimes we just think we have to be improving because maybe it's what got us to where we were at one point. And sometimes it's just about hunkering down and just becoming better at your craft, at the specific craft that you're doing, you know?
Yeah. I would agree with that. It's very seasonal. I don't like what I've learned now in being in this game for a decade plus, you know, I've been fortunate enough to do it full time now for 6+ years where, you know, there were times where it was like, I'm hunkered down, I'm working, I'm burning the candle at both ends, I'm growing it. And God willing, if that hard work pays off in some vertical or you find this thing that works, you know, it makes sense to double down on that and ride that hard for a while. But there does come a point, whether it's out of necessity or out of trend burn or whatever, or personal burn, where it's like, you can't expect that in this type of business, you can't expect that thing to go on forever. So there's always these tough decisions that need to be made because it's like, all right, here's this thing that, you know, here's this thing that's maybe the main bread and butter for my business model, but I need, like, you got to diversify. You got to find ways to not just from a business standpoint, but from a creative standpoint too. And I spoke about this before on this podcast, but for me, there's an interesting progression, I think, that happens to a lot of people, in more specifically in kind of the YouTube, IG short form content space. I think, you know, less so. It's affected a lot of industries, but where it's so competitive now and so much content is coming out all the time. It's, you know, the idea of just hunkering down and spending a lot of time in like weeks, months on one piece of content, like, feels impossible. Like, there's very few people that can execute that
in vertical, especially because it's just so fast. In
vertical, no chance. Like in long form, definitely. I mean, obviously there's like, you know, Hollywood, like the way we've traditionally consumed entertainment has just continually been chopped down into shorter form, to the point where over the last 2 decades, even Hollywood has completely transformed, and like movies that were awesome and unbelievably written and poignant and beautiful in the 90s can't even be made anymore because they won't even get a nod because people's attention is just so much different. So as someone who makes content, there's that constant pressure to, like, once it's your business, like, you just always have to be thinking about the next thing. The second something goes up, it's the next video, it's volume, it's like that. And in my experience in doing that over the last, you know, 6-7 years, weekly videos, sometimes more, than starting the second channel where I do videos there, like, you can, it's easy to spread yourself thin. And then on top of that, you throw on the fact that you're wearing all of the hats of a business owner, CEO, accountant, administrator, all these things. And I find there's kind of this inverse correlation between creativity and success of your business. Where like the more successful you are on a business standpoint, the less time you have to feed and give yourself the breathing room to tap into that creativity that really inspired you to start doing this in the first place.
Yep.
So that's something that I've really wrestled with in the last couple of years myself, is just like having this creative itch, this part of me that I look back 6-7 years ago, that was like, that's what I was leaning on, because I wasn't making any money. I was trying shit. I was doing stuff. And then the flip side of that is now I have this business that requires X, Y, Z from me every week, and I'm stretched thin, and I have a family, and I'm raising a kid and all these things. And it's like, man, to even find an hour to play guitar again, like right now, has been
so relatable.
Been tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been, I've kind of been in the last, I would say 3 to 4 weeks in this weird lull mode where, and even like if you look at the main channel, I've only uploaded twice on the main channel this month, today being one of those 2 times, because I've been so uninspired and unmotivated to just do the hamster wheel stuff, and just really, I've been playing like guitar for 2 hours a day. I've been like writing, I've been doing skits, just like, and that's when I talk about like seasonality, that's really what I think about. Like, I think is somebody who, when you have a creative side of you and it's maybe being neglected, eventually you're going to have to pump the brakes on whatever it is that's taking all of your time and start to feed, and that's kind of that phase I'm in right now. And I hope that spawns something cool. Like, I never know what's going to come from that. Yeah. But you have to give yourself room to breathe to find that creativity, because if you don't give yourself that time and that boredom and that just like sitting around not being worried about the next thing you have to post, it's just going to sit in there and never come out.
And I think you do it. I think you, like the way you just explained it, because it's just so interesting how, by the way, I'm a big believer of, what is it called? Like quantum theory, how like the world will bring you along at the right time to hear certain conversations, or meet that person at the right time, and it clicks and resonates. So hearing you explain that, one, it's nice, because when you go through that, you're like, fuck, man, am I just bad at what I do, or am I just a dumbass for not appreciating this? And because at the end of the day, we do have our dream jobs, you know what I mean? We're blessed to be where we are.
Deny that. Yeah.
But I think the way that you just articulated that is the best way that most creators, including myself, like what I should have done in a lot of those scenarios over the last few years, as like my main source, YouTube, grew to certain levels. I like how you said you slow down on the main channel, still sticking with the curated content. Maybe it's not what you want to pump out twice a week right now, but you're still doing the same stuff, not ruining that audience, and you're having fun more on the sites that we know and articulate we can throw away shit on. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. Hey, if it low performs, it doesn't matter. Nobody gives a shit, right?
That's right.
And for me, so I don't know if you've seen recent posts, I literally just cleared 1,100 videos off my channel to this week.
1,100?
Here's the reality. That was that was 3/4 of my channel's uploads that accumulated to 6% of the views of the totality of the channel. They were meaningless, pointless videos that they probably didn't do anything. Could have probably left them there, but it was more of this idea of like, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to focus on the thing. We know how YouTube works. It doesn't care about our creative itch. It doesn't care about our fucking emotions. It wants us to show up, do our job, get people to click, stay, and watch. And whether people like it or not, that's the reality. And that's how you become successful at it. So the way that you articulated, just instead of, you're not hitting the nuclear button and starting to do, Caleb Francis long form skits on your, main channel right now saying, hey, audience, just deal with it. I need a creative refresh. You're slowing down. You're still doing the main thing. And you're like, I'm going to go use the other places that content's recycled so much anyways. It's going to be fun. And that's what happens. You do that. And then you have a viral clip with your wife where you talk about urinating. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. You never know what the fuck's going to hit. And it's all a bit of a balancing act. Like once you have something that works and it becomes a business model that provides for you, like it would be ignorant in my opinion to just be like, I'm bored and I don't feel inspired, so I'm just going to hang it up completely. Like, okay. Okay.
Little red alert, little deep. Yeah.
How can we, like, there's clearly a market for this. People clearly like it from you. how can you weave this into what you do to keep it going in some capacity and use that to fund other creative adventures, right?
Right.
And I think that's the goal of it. So for anyone that's fortunate enough to be able to make some sort of living online as someone who uploads content to some site. I mean, it's fucking crazy that it's first of all, just crazy that you can take a camera, record a bunch of shit, edit it, and upload it to the internet in 8 minutes, and all of a sudden you're like, you can make a living off that. It's obscene.
I told you in Texas, like being the creative background, one of the things that just still blows my mind to this day, it's so hard to articulate, but like what we're doing right now, like 10, 20 years ago, the budget that you needed to have to produce this type of content is unbelievable. We stood no chance in a world of like Hollywood, for example, 20 years ago to get this production. We would have had to probably get sexually harassed by some crazy, director by some movie company.
What was the Nickelodeon guy?
Oh my God. We had gone through all that shit just to be on the camera. And now we can buy cameras that produce better shit than the things that we grew up watching. I think that's just one of the dopest things ever, man.